we have Benjamin. Benjamin has published 15 books in Malayalam, including 7 novels, 3 short story collections, a travelogue, and a book of memoirs. His most famous work, Goat Days, is a bestseller in Malayalam and has been translated into many languages like English, Arabic, Tamil, Kannada, and Nepali. It received the Kerala Sahitya Academy Award in 2009, was longlisted for Man Asian Literature Prize 2013, and shortlisted for DSC Prize for South Asian Literature 2014, and is included in the syllabus of many universities. The Arabic translation of the books is banned in Saudi Arabia and UAE. His other major works include Euthanasia, Second Book of Prophets, 20 Years of Christian Quarrels, and Yellow Lights of Death. His latest work, Al-Arabian Novel Factory, is also banned in UAE. So we'll have an interesting conversation about all those bans and restrictions on your book. Now I have to talk about Anjali Purohit, and I'm looking for the page that carries her profile. Yes. So Anjali Purohit is an artist and writer whose fiction and poetry have featured in anthologies and journals including Four Quarters magazine, Desi Lit, Chalk, Indian Writing from Around the World, Urban Voice India, and Swarna Rekha. Her story, Bitter Harvest, was a winner in the Commonwealth Short Story Competition 2008 and 2009. She also organizes many cultural interventions. She is the founder of Cappuccino Readings, an initiative aimed at fostering a literary cafe culture in Mumbai. Her book, Ragi Ragini Chronicles from Ajji's Kitchen, was published by Yoda Press in 2012. So this is the prolific list of the panelists that we have. Now coming back to the topic, endangered imagination, limits of storytelling in a polarized society, I was just discussing this issue with all our members in the panel, also with Benjamin now, that this is something which is not very new. I strongly feel that society, why only society, when families have been polarized since their inceptions. We have different viewpoints in one family. We have different poles. And why only 2 poles? We have multipolar families. We have multipolar societies. So storytelling has always been limited. Now the struggle is with the storyteller, whether he or she has to put his or her effort into fighting with that limitations, or in the area of igniting the imagination that's there in his mind and heart. So we'll have a lot of discussion around this topic, and the format that we have agreed to is, first, all the panelists will get around 5 minutes to talk to open the session, and once round 1 is there, we'll be asking them questions from what they have spoken, and then we'll open it for everyone, and strictly it will be open just for questions, not to speak out your whole speech from there. We'll just be focusing on the questions. So I request everyone present in the audience to carefully listen, and if you are interested in asking questions, kindly frame your questions beforehand. That will not waste our time, your time, and everybody will enjoy that. You'll also enjoy the process. So because the kind of mic the love for microphone that we have in our country, once we get the mic, we don't want to leave it. Like being a moderator, I should have by now given the mic to my panelists, but I'm talking and talking and talking and I'm not stopping. So I would not like this to be repeated, and I'll just shift the microphone to others in case your questions are not questions and speeches and point of views. So I'll start with Anjali on endangered imagination. Anjali, please enlighten us with your take about endangered imagination, limits of storytelling in a polarized society. We have Anjali Purohit for you.
Thank you, Pankaj. No enlightened views, really, but I have a lot of questions about this subject and a few remarks that perhaps might might create a picture of the topic that we are having under discussion. So basically, I want to talk about the 4 things that we are have in our title. One is polarization, one is storytelling, and one is the storyteller or the writer. What does he do? So starting with the first one, I'd like to say that polarization that we see today, it doesn't even need to be pointed to. I'm talking not so much about the family, but in society, it's there for all to see. Is it new for us? I don't think so. Polarization has been there through the centuries. Why has it been there? I feel because it is a tool for the rulers to keep ruling. In that sense, I'd like to say that even Chanakya, way back when, had 4 ways he said we must rule. They were Sam, Dam, Dand, and Bhed. I won't go into the first 3. Bhed is what we are talking about now. Because when you create divisions between the people you are ruling, then you can have your way, because they will be left fighting amongst themselves. Later on, the British used the same tool to divide us, to keep us fighting, so that they could rule and loot our country. So, the very important and peculiar thing I have noticed about Bhed, about polarization, is that the rulers then don't need to interfere. You know, their work is done by the people themselves. The people are reacting. The rulers are not. They are just watching and doing what they want to do. So the people will do their work, and the threat to freedom of speech comes then not from an obvious ruling force or its arms of enforcement, either the police administration or the law, but from people themselves. So it becomes easy to stifle the voice of the writer, who is trying to give voice to the subaltern, to subvert the whole process that is there, which is keeping them altered. Very quickly then, and the polarization is not only between communities, between religions. The polarization is class, community, gender, caste, sexual orientation, or even these days how you look. In Delhi, we have people from the northeast who are totally beaten up because they're called, they look different, their eyes are different, they dress different, their hair is different, and we are afraid. We are afraid, we want to attack them. So the intolerance is growing. The third thing I wanted to talk about is, then what is a writer's life? If we look upon the writer as one who at various times holds up a mirror to society, holds up a mirror to himself, what is happening within him as a reflection of what is happening outside, one who interprets the assumptions of society, or one who suggests alternate worldviews, possibilities, perspectives that are different from what is going on, and thereby stimulating the reader's imagination in some way. So if this is happening, why is the writer involved in polarization? Why is he affected by it? I believe that today, as writers, writing basically is a solitary profession. We cannot sit across the table like people sit in offices and write. We need our space. And slowly writers are becoming isolated. And suddenly you find that something that was so casually and easily acceptable 20 years ago about communities, about anything, suddenly today is drawing a reaction, and the writer is surprised, how did this happen? I feel basically it's because we are not, as writers, forming a community, that we are not reaching out to each other. And therefore, I find meetings like today's, what SIWE is putting together, so important to get writers from different parts of the country together, so we feel that we are not alone in thinking these unacceptable, crazy thoughts. There are others. We might be able to put our book out, we might not, because of polarizations, but at least we'll know that we are not alone. So I'll think my 5 minutes.
That was superb, Anjali. And in a way, we feel polarization is there and present and prevalent in any form, wherever we go, whatever you do. And of late, writers have started reacting to this because it's disturbing their normal creative pursuits that they're supposed to undergo. Now, we have with us Mithira Venkat Raj. Now, what do you have to say on this, Mithra? Mithra.
I'm not very articulate in English, so please bear with me. I'll try my best to put forward my view. Yeah. And as a writer, I can't say that I have gone through any restrictions or bans or protests, but I have seen such things happening around me, even in Karnataka, from where I come from, and in Mumbai, where I live. In Mumbai, for example, in Karnataka, there was a poet, a reformist, Basaveshwara. And recently, and now and again, a lot of uproar we hear about those who write about him. So, and even in Mumbai, recently we have seen a book being banned, which was there for 20 years. Rohinton Mystery's book, which was there for 20 years in the market, which was very well read and appreciated, and suddenly a political leader, budding political student leader, takes objection to it, and immediately it was removed from the university curriculum. And even in Karnataka, another example in Karnataka is the doyen of Karnataka literature, Shivaram Karanth. Even he was not spared. One of the short story he wrote for children about a carpenter, it was written about nearly 30, 40 years ago maybe. Suddenly, carpenter community objects to it, and it was removed from children's textbooks. So such things we hear around, and this really affects the writer, in this polarized society, what to write, what not to write, whether we will be hurting somebody by writing something. As far as my writing goes, it has been smooth, I was telling you. In my short stories and even in my novel, I have written about widowhood and atrocities of the landlords and even lesbianism and such shortcomings of my own community, that is South Kendra Brahmin community. I have written about even relationship out of wedlock also. But maybe because I write very subtly, or I don't know, I haven't faced any problem as such. But still, I feel that we writers are somehow compelled to put some self-restrictions on ourselves. I feel inhibited to write certain things. Maybe at the back of my mind, I have a feeling that I may confront somebody, or it may hurt some people. And in Mumbai language, we say, we don't want any janjat. So maybe because of that, I don't know. I'll give you one small example. It's a very technical matter, but even in such small matters, sometimes we think whether we should write a particular word or we should not write it. In one of my short stories known as Parakka Katehel, Tell Me a Story Parakka, I had to write about a community, a trade, about a shopkeeper. In my hometown, most of the shopkeepers are from particular community known as Konkanis. So, as this particular character has a negative implication, I didn't want to write it as a Konkani. Instead of that, I used the word Vartaka Samaja, because they are all Konkani people, they are all together, you know. So Vartaka Samaja I wrote. I didn't want to hurt somebody, or I don't know. And given the character of the middle-aged lady who was telling this story to the children of the house in a very free-flowing narration and with all her prejudices, she should have been very vocal about these characters. But I refrained from mentioning it. And one may ask, what are you afraid of? Why don't you write what you really feel or what your creativity demands? This is something I have asked myself several times. But I think my creative side can't override my personal nature. That is what I have found out. And let me confess, I can't face confrontation or hurting somebody's feelings or giving an opportunity for protest. I don't have the stomach for that. I know I may be wrong. Here Lakshmi is staring at me. I know she loves freedom of speech and she may not like this. And like this, knowingly or unknowingly, we withhold certain matters and write about it subtly. Maybe we have to wait until the society changes or this extreme polarization. Because certain amount of polarization is good, diversity. But anything extreme is not good. So till that time, maybe the writer has to wait.
Thank you, Mitra. This was Mitra Venkatraj. And who would be a better person? Are Benjamin, because his works have been constantly banned in different parts of the world. So what made all this happen and how did he tackle? How did he not let his imagination, hamper? What do you have to say on this?
Thank you, Pankaj. I think the focus of this discussion is the limitation of a writer. The polarization is already happened in the society. The writer is not responsible for at all for this situation. But what are the things we can do in this society, and how we are overcoming this polarized society, and how we are overcoming our limitation? This is our focus on the discussion, I think so. Whenever we are writing something, we have to think about to whom you are writing to whom you are addressing. This is our main focus. If you are addressing someone, then your limitations already come into you for each and every words, I think so. We must not address anyone. You have to address yourself only. Then only we can write something very honestly, or we can write something very openly only. If you are looking to someone else, maybe the society, maybe someone from your friends, family, then the limitations come to us all of a sudden. When I am writing God Days, the Adu Jeevitham, that was when I am living in Bahrain, an Arabic country. You know, the censorship is very, very strong there. I know it is very endanger writing such a story from Gulf. But what I am thinking is if you are a real honest writer, you have to be in a dangerous zone sometimes. You cannot be in a safe zone. You cannot be in a green zone always as a writer. You have to be sometimes you have to be in a dangerous zone, and you have to write something open. If you are not open very well, the story is not. I think it is not a good story at all. So the second story that you told, the Al Arabian Novel Factory, that is also based on the politics of Saudi Arabia. Not only in the Saudi Arabia, the politics of Arab region. I learned that I cannot write that such a story in honesty when I am living there. So I left that place and I came back to my own place, and I choose
that was safer.
Yeah, better, safer zone, because when we are thinking about the Perumal Murugan's issue, always you are rising. Perumal Murugan is telling his own death. How a author can tell that he died himself for something. This is something a suicide. A writer cannot suicide himself. That means he have to write from some other zones. He cannot be always in a safe zone. We know that the society is always keen on you, and they are keen on each words. Maybe I don't know why the society is that much afraid of creativity. It may be a film, maybe a novel, maybe a short story. Each word is censoring by the society. Maybe the politics, maybe by the politicians, maybe by the religion. Somebody is always looking and they are censoring. But we have to overcome that limitations, and we should take some courage to write honestly. This is what I am thinking. This is the way we choose better place to write. We think about other writers in the world, well-known writers. They are all went to somewhere. They go to migration, they go to exile for writing the reality. Why we are afraid of writing? We should love the words. We must be honest in writing. This is what I am thinking.
In a way, I believe that helps your work getting more publicity and awareness about the product. Because when I came up with my debut novel last year, What a Loser, I was looking for some fanatic who would hate that and would burn my novel somewhere, and then I would get more media publicity about it. And those not interested in my novel would also get hands-on. So this was quite, I think after the banning of your book, it must have dragged more eyeballs. What is there in it? Why has it been banned?
Certainly this governments or the state is always afraid of writing something. When I read myself, I don't think the book is it is something there to ban. Maybe in the God Days, maybe some other book, maybe in the Al Arabian Novel Factory, there is some reality of politics there. Maybe a state is not like that one. But we know that the state is always so concerned of their issues. But the ban came, all of a sudden the English book sale is grown very big. The translation of Arabic came already. The second, even though the ban is there, the second edition came out from the Arabic region because they are very keen on reading why the book is banned. So it is good for me. The banning
good for the writer,
for as an author, it is a good thing. Banning is always a good thing.
Mitra, the way you said about defensive writing, why should we get into others' jhamela? We should write straight and just sticking to our set of creativity. Would you subscribe to this idea that if a book is banned, it attracts more eyeballs, and it's in a way helps the author and the book? What do you have to say on this?
I don't think I'll like that, It's a negative publicity, you can say. So I don't think.
And what's your take on this, Anjali?
Surely it helps. If they are big publishers, then it helps for a ban. If it's a small independent press, then a ban doesn't help at all. And I feel a writer doesn't write. I mean, you said it in jest. And doesn't write at all, firstly, to increase sales. He writes to find a readership. He said something. He wants it to be heard. That's, I feel, the primary thing why we write. Or sing, or make films, or do theatre, so that we find...
Certainly everybody has a different target group. And
yeah. No, to writing.
Yeah.
Why you are writing. But banning sometimes helps, sometimes doesn't. I mean, it's not just sales. You might be just beaten up and killed. Yeah. And then your sales will rise.
You become immortal.
But you won't be there to rake in the money. So.
Salman Rushdie's case. Yeah.
I think at least in my case, it is not for the negative publicity or something. I wrote negativity. I wrote a reality of the sideline people. The government is not like, state is not accepting that reality. That is the only thing. The negative publicity is something else, and writing something controversial items and
but does that restrict your limitation next time when you sit to write? does that impact in some way or the other? When you sit back to write again next time, does the previous incident impact your imagination?
I think no, not at all, because the limitation is the limitation